It's time for our first live event rundown of the year. We're doing it in a bit of a new format this time. We're talking about Motorama happening in Pennsylvania just under a month ago. This exciting event had the 12-pound class, the 30-pound class, and the Sportsman Division. And this one's all about the very unique 30-pound class. A lot of Canadian robots, a lot of very unique creations. Machines like PENN-BOT, Llama Shear, Crunch Time, a lot of very impressive designs. Maybe designs we can see in the future of the sport. We're talking about that in this episode here. Stay tuned.
Oh my God! Wow! This is the biggest flame we've ever seen.
Has preserved enough energy to get in the flip on Carbine. We're going to go all the way. Oh my God! That's going to hurt. Grab the milk, Jenny.
Welcome to the Combot Collective.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode here at the Combot Collective. Bring everything you want to know from the world of robot combat, from the heavyweight class to the flyweight class, from Battlebots to the live circuit, where we talk about today. And as I said in the intro, just under a month ago, happening in mid-February, it was Motorama Robot Conflict, hosted by the NERC, and this is one of the biggest East Coast robot combat events that isn't directly affiliated with the NHRL. Very exciting event. It's been happening for now 20 years. The first event happening in 2003. Battlebots teams from all eras have competed here. Some bringing smaller versions of their Battlebots. Some getting their start here, moving on to Battlebots. So there's a lot of history here. And originally this was going to be one big video. But as you'll see here, we're breaking this down into 3 different parts. And we're going into the middle to the very unique sportsman class. We've talked quite a bit about sportsman heavyweight events in the past in both the UK and the US. It's the same premise here. You can't have big time spinners. You can't have really damaging weapons. It's all about the controlling robots. You got your crushers, you got your lifters, you got your grapplers, you got a couple flippers in there, and you got some really unique weapons. We'll be talking about machines like AtlAtl and PENN-BOT here in a minute. Llama Shear as well. It's a fun class, so let's not waste too much time and jump into it. But first, as always at the Combot Collective, we're talking about Motorama, and Motorama has a lot of teams affiliated with this website. This is robotsruinmylife.com, the merchandise provider for numerous robot combat teams, including teams we're going to be talking about in this video, such as Omega Team with Little Rip, Star Child and Star Father. They have merchandise on that website. They were featured in past Motorama events. We also have Team Shredded Bro. They were present at the event. They have merchandise on the website, along with numerous other robot combat teams, which you're going to see in this episode, and you're going to see in the upcoming Norwalk Havoc event on March 18th, and on Battlebots as well. These teams are everywhere. So if you're looking for a little bit of robot combat merchandise, check out the link in the description below, robotsruinmylife.com, for t-shirts, buttons, pins, poker tips, pizza boxes, bags, all sorts of fun robot combat merchandise. Be sure to check them out. But now let's move on to the sportsman class, a class which featured 13 robots in a unique Swiss round in the bracket tournament, a bit of World Cup style here. A lot of interesting designs, so a lot of notable robots here. Starting out with some notable robots here that didn't make the main field cut. The Hammer Bot Woodsmith was Blacksmith Captain's Al Kindle's first time entering a live event arena in over 5 years. Really excited to see this robot, and it came full circle here to this series of events where the original Blacksmith first competed way back when. Unfortunately, it did go 1-2, only defeating fellow Axbot Woodsman before having to pull out of its other 2 fights, but looked nice in its sole matchup. And here's a NERC fan favorite. PENN-BOT would also make its triumphant return to the arena here after winning a lot of robot combat fans over during 2022's Motorama. Still looks as it did last year. DeWalt drill up front and a big orange highway cone as the machine's body. It went 1-3, but it somehow made it through the group stages, an improvement from last year. And a new robot in the sportsman class this year is one for the wrestling fans. I'm going to butcher this name, Sake Sharon. Not only is this robot pretty damn awesome with its unique tread drive and arms, but its weapon is a steel chair. I've never seen this before on a non-heavyweight robot, especially as a primary weapon. Sadly, Sake would go 0-3, but good news, somehow none of these were by DQ. But like I mentioned with heavyweights, we've seen chairs in the sport recently. Tether projectiles, they come less often. Another unique robot at this event was AtlAtl, which, as the name implies, is a robot which throws a spear at you. This had to have been my favorite sportsman of the whole event. They would only manage 3 successful spear strikes on their 10 total throws during the event, but it did go 1 and 2. Mild success there. It was apparently their best outing with the AtlAtl weapon. I want to see more out of this robot. I love me some good projectiles. But now let's get to the top 4 of this event. This was a Canada-dominated top 4. 3 of our top 4 robots here would end up placing, as we do have 2 robots tied for 3rd. Starting with Industrial Accident, our first Canadian representative to discuss in this sportsman class today, and a very impressive rookie robot. This great white machine boasts a sturdy snowplow and a solid overhead saw arm, which can be exchanged for an axe. They used a saw arm for this fight, and its first battle was against the aforementioned beloved joke bot PENN-BOT, and it would be a literal death by 1,000 cuts, as Industrial Accident would pull PENN-BOT all over the arena, shove it around, and leave saw slits all in the machine's round, already taped up body. Judge's decision went there, as the Accident would then go on to challenge Axebot Woodsman in group round 2, using a hammer clamp much similar to Scorpius's Taskbot Claw, not really a full-on beta or shatter style hammer. Very impressive here though. Industrial Accident would deliver 74 axe strikes in 81 attempts, and even managed to end the fight by forcing Woodsman up to the wall. Very impressive win there by judge's decision. And then after a Woodsmith forfeit, Industrial Accident would advance to the bracket at 3-0, with even more luck, as the machine would then get a bye into the semifinals automatically. The defending champion, Llama Sheen, was next up for Industrial Accident, and the Accident would choose to stick with this axe attachment for this fight, but I do question the decision. I feel like the saw blade may have been more damaging and crucial, especially for some of the more thin areas on Llama Sheen. That being said, Industrial Accident absolutely put in some work here. Multiple strikes to significant areas of Llama Sheen, and it even managed to hold down its weapon on a couple occasions, but Industrial Accident still spent a lot of this fight up in the air and on its head, as robots usually do against a sportsman powerhouse like Llama Sheen. And after a full 3 minutes of combat, Industrial Accident would begin smoking pretty heavily. A late factor, but still probably the factor which would decide this incredibly close, action-packed fight. Industrial Accident does go out here, but it put on an amazing show. One of the best fights at Motorama in the way out. And we'll talk about Llama Sheen shortly. Let's talk about fellow third-place robot Llama Shear from Forge and Farm Robotics of Bale Spear fame. This strange robot is perhaps the biggest anomaly of all of our Motorama robots we are talking about today, as due to the odd amount of sportsman entries in the group rounds, Llama Shear, which is a very experimental robot designed specifically to counter Llama Sheen, has gotten to skip the group stages and go directly into the elimination bracket. Llama Shear follows the usual Forge and Farm building philosophy, and it's made out of a plastic pipe, which is armed with what best can be described as a bludgeoning saw blade and a rebar TV antenna that spins on top. Big Robot Wars 1995 vibes, and Llama Shear, like I mentioned, goes straight into the bracket. And fight 1, speaking of old US Robot Wars, would be against a truly daunting opponent in the orange PENN-BOT. This was a real throwback of a fight. 2 robots made out of bits and scraps bumping into one another with a rickety drill and a rickety saw. Nothing to really note here, but PENN-BOT would randomly die in the fight's final minute, giving Llama Shear the much-deserved KO win. And now, Llama Shear's long, treacherous journey had led it into the Sportsman Final 4. It's defeated America's best in PENN-BOT and now must defeat Canada's finest in the Flipper Ralph. Llama Shear looked to bludgeon Ralph with its blade, but alas, one box rush from Ralph and said blade was ripped clean off of Llama Shear. And then they tried using that TV antenna rebar thingy as a weapon, but it immediately broke off as well. So the fight devolved into something like Ripper versus Puck you would see in the old UK live scene days. I think you can guess who won that fight. Llama Shear may be gone though, but due to luck and fortune, it would be the highest placing American robot in the Motorama 2023 Sportsman event, so shoutouts to them. Big placing for Forge and Farm Robotics. And a bit better than Llama Shear comes Llama Sheen, who is designed a bit like Oh Yes Robotics' Krusty Grab. It is a robot which simply suplexes you with its unique grabbing lifter shape. And it may even do better than the heavyweight counterpart, as it did take first at the event last year, trying to make it 2 for 2. Llama Sheen also has a mini-bot named Polite Patriot, very similar to Surrender Bot, joining it. Its only weapon is a Canadian flag. We'll see if it plays a factor here, as in Group Round 1, it would meet a machine with a similar philosophy of attack and fracas, but four-wheel drive would outplay two-wheel drive here, as Llama Sheen would easily bully fracas to a judge's decision win. And then in its following Group Round 2 match, it was a different form of control bot in Crunch Time, the event's soul-crushing robot and a veteran of multiple events and This would be another incredibly dominant Llama Sheen showing, as it would avoid the crusher completely for the entire 3-minute fight, ripping up some floor panels in the process and even managing a perfect suplex early on against Crunch Time. Llama Sheen then finished off its group versus an aforementioned favorite of mine, AtlAtl, and AtlAtl would manage one spear impact on both Llama and its mini-bot. But unfortunately for AtlAtl, it was a perfect shape for Llama Sheen's suplexing arm. In fact, too perfect. The robot had to be unstuck at one point, and Llama Sheen would use this much to their advantage. 7 perfect suplexes to AtlAtl, and Llama Sheen would go 3-0 in groups via judge's decision once more here. And then in the first elimination bracket round, Llama Sheen would fight NHRL veteran Major Accident, and the Hammerbot's weapon looked strong, but not strong enough. Llama Sheen would flip Accident over, and within seconds of the fight, the robot was not able to get up, but this being a Sportsman Division, the friendly Canadians with Llama Sheen would make the save. This save, though, did not help Accident's chances at all. Llama Sheen would dominate another 3-minute fight, and even managed to pull off 4 more suplexes to move on. From one overhead weapon to another, though, Llama Sheen now faced the Canadian Sportsman Industrial Accident in the semifinals. And like I mentioned a few moments ago, an absolutely amazing fight, one everyone should go out of their way to watch in full. Good offense by both robots, but Industrial Accident was the one smoking after the fight. Likely gave Llama Sheen the judge's decision win here, and it would move on to the finals as the champ looked for 2 straight victories. But yeah, finally, now let's talk about Ralph, another NERC Sportsman regular competing since 2019 and another representative of Canada. Ralph missed 2022, but it had some great showings at 2019 and 2020, and this made the lifter a favorite going into this event. Ralph would take it easy versus experimental chairbot Sake Sharon in round 1, and despite Sake's speed and early weapon issues, Ralph was able to bully Sake and slowly pick away at the treads for a W. And then from a chairbot to a hammerbot, Ralph would meet the nicely built Roger Lord Mortimer, and Roger was tricky for Ralph at first, but Lord Mortimer had weapon issues incredibly early. After just 2 flips from Ralph, Roger Lord Mortimer would be put out in almost a minute exactly. I believe the final time for the fight was 1 minute, 1 second. And then in its final group round, it faced a proper veteran in the aforementioned Major Accident, whose hammer was not hammering as well as it had in the past. It still managed some strikes, but again, it would be mostly Ralph on offense here, who would have the ground game and control game nearly all fight, forcing a judge's decision win, as Ralph was now 3-0 in the group stages, moving on to a bracket with plenty of momentum. Ralph would first fight the Crusher Crunch Time in bracket, and this really looked like it might be Crunch Time's fight after a few near crushes to Ralph's flimsy top. But the start and end of this fight will be all Ralph with a handful of impressive flips, which won an incredibly close judge's decision to move on to the semifinals. And like we mentioned, a little bit of breathing room in the semifinals after that close Crunch Time fight with the aforementioned battle against New Jersey's Llama Shear. The plastic pipe on wheels would serve more as a flipping practice than a true opponent for Ralph, who easily tossed off Llama Shear. So there we go, Ralph versus Llama Sheen in the finals. We have another battle of lifter versus flipper for our Motorama Sportsman finale. But what's different this year is that it is an all-Canadian final. Both Llama Sheen and Ralph come from the Great White North and are both veterans of Motorama and other competitions. Both of these combatants have similar opponents in Crunch Time and Accident, but also took on unique opponents such as their semifinal challengers, Industrial Accident and Llama Shear respectively. Bit of history here as well. These robots met 3 times during the window of 2019 and 2020, with Llama Sheen winning 2 of these 3 exchanges, and well, history would favor the winners here. Llama Sheen seriously took advantage of the speed and smaller size advantage it had over this newly built version of Ralph. Llama Sheen would bully it all the way for the full 3 minutes, suplexing it 4 times across the fight's duration, as Llama Sheen, our now successive champion, went 33 for 40 on lift/flip attempts, while Ralph could only muster up a futile 1 for 3, dealing with pressure issues pretty quickly into the fight after taking so much punishment. The match could have been a KO in just over a minute, but Llama Sheen and Polite Patriot made it a fight, like I mentioned, taking it the full 3 minutes. So congratulations to the Canadian Llama Sheen for another sportsman title, North America's best sportsman for quite some time. I would really like to see this robot hop into the arena with some proper 30-pound featherweights just to see how it could do. I bet it could hold its own and do some more suplexes. What a run, though, here for our champion Canadians. And there we go. Caps it off for our mostly Canadian finish there in the Sportsman Division. As I mentioned, a lot of Canadian robots. Great White North most definitely represented here with Industrial Accident, Ralph, and of course our champion Llama Sheen. Oh man, that robot, absolutely insane. I already talked about maybe competing in full combat. What about, heavyweight divisions? Maybe a smaller weight class. Maybe a 60-pound version of Llama Sheen or a middleweight version. It could be at Robo Games in the future. I don't know. I'm spitballing here. I love this robot. Big time action now. For 2 straight years I've been watching this robot compete. Big fan of it. That's going to do it for us here at the Combot Collective. Finishing discussion here for a Motorama class. A very exciting Motorama class. And I am your host, as always, Sterling Brown, a.k.a. Sterling TXTG. That's where you can find me on Instagram. As always, the Combot Collective, sponsored by robotsruinmylife.com. Check out the Team Wake and Bake t-shirt giveaway, medium-sized t-shirt giveaway, which is currently in the description below. We have a Gleam giveaway for that. You get the t-shirt, you get some TCC and Robots Ruin My Life sticker merchandise. It's a good deal. Check it out. Link in the description below. Also in the description below, our social media, Facebook and Instagram, both there. News posts go there. Video posts go there. Keep up to date with us there. We also have our Discord server growing by the week. New people joining it every week. All of our video news goes there first. And we have, Robot Combat fans there, Robot Combat competitors there, showing off their designs, getting input. It's a great little group of people. And as always, here on the YouTube page, please like the video if you're enjoying what you see here in this little Motorama series of videos running down the live event fights, running down the live event classes. This is probably how I'm going to do these live event videos now in the future, cutting them into 3 parts or cutting them into, how many weight classes I need to cut them into. I feel like this is more streamlined, more smooth, makes for more videos, and you're not just watching one big, chuggy, long video. We'll see how it goes, but yes. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't as well. Ring the bell icon. Comment as well. Give us your thoughts. But that's going to wrap it up for us here at the Combot Collective. We will see you next time.
This was the Combot Collective. Find us on Instagram and Discord.